So this is Chris Morrow at Comic-Con at Home. I'm remotely connected to the Tin Fish. And the panel is from the Fleet Science Center, celebrates Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the stories and science of androids, space travel, and aliens. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Chris? Thanks for having us.
Great. Please introduce yourself and tell me where your home is.
All right, my name is Andrea Decker. I have the pleasure of working at the Fleet Science Center, which is a science museum in San Diego, and that's where I'm at home, in San Diego. And I'm going to throw it over to Sharla and James.
I'm Sharla Oliver, and
I'm James Oliver.
yeah. And we are writers on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are at our home in Los Angeles.
And Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Miller. I'm a chemist at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I live here in San Diego.
Virginia.
Hi, my name is Virginia Dessa. I'm a professor of cognitive science and associate director of the Holly Julieu Data Science Institute at UC San Diego, and I live in San Diego.
And Joel.
Hi, I'm Joel Stoffer. I play Enoch on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, and I am in Los Angeles, California, in Silver Lake.
Well, welcome everybody. I would love to hear about how your panel went and what you discussed.
So I'm going to throw that to the panelists first. I want them to share how they think the panel went, what they liked.
Well, we just watched it again as it right as it went up, so that was fun to see everybody again. I thought it was really fun. We spend so much time thinking about the science behind all the things that we do on the show, and to have actual scientists there commenting and kind of explaining, like, could this be real? Could this be real? I thought it was so fun.
But we're always worried that scientists are going to be mad at us when we do things. So knowing that at least a subset of scientists were okay with most of what we've done made us feel better.
Yeah, as a scientist and a science writer, watching everything I watch, I look at science, and a lot of it is eye-rolling, cringe-inducing, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is definitely better than most shows, and it was really gratifying to talk to the writers and hear from the actors that they take it seriously, you know, getting the representation right and saying the words right and portraying real, at least the basis of the science they use. And so that was really great as a fan too.
I really enjoyed being on the panel with people with very creative people with very different backgrounds and insights. And I thought it was the way Andrea put the panel together to show that such a popular show as Agents, how it depends on basic scientists developing science, which motivates writers who then do really creative things with it, and then actors who bring it to life and, you know, really make people love it. And then, you know, there's also special effects people, but it depends on all of this in order to get a very popular show. I thought that was great. And it depends on the fleet and people like Andrea to actually, you know, show everybody that and make it an educational experience. So I got that out of it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot more to contribute other than it was fun to just kind of get a sense of the divide between fantasy and reality, and what, you know, what's possible on a show that is not possible in real life. And there's inevitably holes that come up in the writing just because, you know, it's based on imagination. And so it's fun for me as an actor to get to try to fill those holes and bring some kind of believability to the story that's being told.
Sorry I was late. I enjoyed the panel a lot too. It was great to see it not while I was participating, because I think when you're on it, you're maybe more focused on what you're saying, and, you know, this is a one-shot deal. And also now that we have more perspective of quite a few episodes into the season, where we had recorded this a month ago, and now we know a little more about what's happened and can see a little foresight into things.
Do you think that Comic-Con at Home brought you more viewers and people that are going to get hooked for S.H.I.E.L.D. for the science or the fantasy of it versus going to the convention center?
I think so. I mean, we missed having the interaction with the fans. And what I always love bringing these panels to Comic-Con is because we bridge the art and the science, and it's not something that is often done. It should be done because they have a lot of things in common, but it's not often done. And I always loved it when we brought the panels to Comic-Con, because the fans that came up to the panel afterwards, seeing them ask the scientists for autographs just as much as they did for the creative folks was awesome, because that's not something scientists get a lot, right? They don't get asked for autographs very often. So I do miss that aspect of it. But I think Comic-Con being free and being online opens up the doors for many more people to watch it, for many more ages of people to watch it worldwide. You know, Comic-Con, it's not easy to get the tickets. You have to travel here. It's not something that everybody can afford. And I think opening it up this way is quite fantastic. We as the Fleet Science Center love it because it just gives more access. And we believe that everybody deserves access to fun science.
Yeah, no, certainly this is my only experience being on a panel, but so virtual is all I know from being on a panel, but it's in the end, you know, as many people as fit in Hall H are going to end up seeing this panel, if not more, whereas, you know, this would have been in a smaller room were it at the convention center. So I'm really excited about that.
And we talk so much about like our show, hoping that we can inspire people with science, or hoping that we can kind of bring people in to science through our writing. So if more people get to see it and see how we're interacting with the scientists and telling stories based off of that, that's great.
Plus, we weren't even sure we were going to be able to do any Comic-Con related stuff this year anyway, because we just had a baby. So it was nice that Comic-Con came to us.
Yeah.
Joel, how is it for you to have Comic-Con at home?
I'm, you know, I've always wanted to be a part of San Diego Comic-Con, and so if I get it in my home, I'm happy. I mean, I'm hoping that one day I'll get to go down there and see the whole venue and be a part of it, you know, in a live sense. But this is awesome. I mean, I'm thrilled. My son is really excited. You know, he wants to. He hasn't seen the panel that we did, but I got to show it to him. He's only 8, so yeah. You know, but he's still interested.
This would have been your first Comic-Con?
Yeah, my first San Diego. Yeah. Oh my God.
I really hope that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. gets a reunion panel next year or in the coming years. It's too bad that COVID, you know, knocked out the final season Comic-Con visit from all of you. We need an Enoch appreciation panel. We need all of these things. So hopefully next year it'll come around again.
I hope so too.
Well, let's get into the science of it. You know, educate me on what's real that we're seeing on the Shield.
Well, there's lots of science concepts to touch on, right? I mean, we've got the mutations and the inhumans, which is something that Melissa and Troy can probably talk to. We've got time travel, which I know Troy can talk to, and we've got virtual worlds and AI that Virginia can talk to, and they go into that in the panel a little bit more. But if you guys can give a quick snapshot, what would it be?
Troy, go for it.
All right, I'll cover time travel. That's always a bit of a tricky one because I'm a bit of a pedantic physicist, but technically, so our best theory of reality involves, on the one hand, you have quantum field theory, which describes 3 of the 4 forces of the universe. On the other hand, you have Einstein's general relativity, which describes gravity, and that describes the universe as 4-dimensional space-time, and it's a series of differential equations that you solve, and it shows you things like, oh, black holes exist. And technically, you can have these things called closed time-like curves, which you can look up the Wikipedia page for, and that means you travel through space-time and you end up in the same point in space and in time. So it's like a closed curve, which would mean that you had time traveled. So there are solutions to Einstein's equations that allow for that. There are reasons we think that wouldn't actually happen in the real world, because you need to do something weird like pass through a wormhole, or there needs to be matter with negative energy density, things we don't really think exist. But technically, you could have time travel as far as our current theories are aware, even though physicists in general don't think it would actually be possible.
Damn it.
Time travel to the future, though, you know, you stay near a black hole, move close to the speed of light, you will travel much faster into the future than anyone else who's not where you're at.
And then Melissa, do you want to take it next from the inhuman side, from the mutation side a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the mutation stuff is definitely much more Anila's. So I leave it up to people to go back and watch the panel. She does a great job about talking about mice mutations and all of that. From my side of it, the oceanography was definitely really well represented in the food web of the breaking the inhuman vials and working its way up, you know, into the fish oil and then into humans. And, you know, it's just important to know that that's how, you know, the ocean food webs work, and polluting the ocean will eventually affect humans. And so these are long-term things you really have to think about. I don't think there's any of those things that'll give us superpowers, unfortunately. It's all just pollution and detrimental health effects. So it's a little bit less glamorous. I can see why they skipped over that part on TV.
TV writers hear that and we're like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber, like, so you're saying there's a chance. And then we write it up.
And I know, Virginia, when we talked about the virtual world that agents created and the AI that ends up running it, and where's AI these days in real life?
It's not as exciting as the shows. It is moving. There are self-driving cars. In Vegas, there are self-driving taxis you can get into. It's used for computer vision applications all over the place. It's used in Snapchat filters. I mean, people are interacting with it even if they don't realize it, but it's nowhere near as coherent and whole as you would get in the androids in the shows. But it's moving slowly, very slowly. The idea that you are, and I mentioned this in the panel too, but the idea that you wouldn't know if you were living in a simulation, I think that's a very interesting insight that is true. I mean, you don't know whether you're in a simulation or not. All you know is what you experience. So that's a pretty interesting insight.
What are the chances of there being life on another planet, and that life could be mechanical or android synthetic based?
I think
would it, I mean, in other words, would it have to start from like organic in order to get to that, or can it have started from somehow being mechanical? I mean, just because I'm throwing it out there because I'm a chronicom and I'm curious about that. I think I know the answer, but I just want to hear you guys talk about it.
To the best of our knowledge, you know, obviously we can't say for sure yet, but you need the sort of complex chemistry that biological molecules, you know, and they could be not even carbon-based necessarily. They could use like ammonia as their liquid solvent instead of water. But if it were like purely metal-based, I don't think we know that there's complex enough chemistry to lead to self-replicating systems that could evolve into life. But there could easily be life that evolved elsewhere that's biological, and then it gets advanced and sends out mechanical probes to go colonize other worlds and leaves them to their own devices. And so there could be a world that, for all they knew, they just evolved naturally, and they are chronicons basically.
Yeah, and we never exactly got to explore where the chronicoms came from on S.H.I.E.L.D., sadly. Like, who knows exactly how they evolved, and did they have a race of biological beings before them that created them and then they took over? Who knows?
Fingers crossed for the spin-off starring Joel Stoffer, Chronicons.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just don't think, even if we get to the AI and the robots that can think for themselves, I just don't know if I would care as much about them as I care about Enoch, because Joel just breathes so much life into him that you really care about that. You know, it's sort of, it's a sentient machine, I get that, but it's still a machine, but you still care for it, and it's as if it was a person. So
there are other really good actors out there, you know.
Yeah, they are, but we're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So
True.
How do you do the writing process? Do you consult with scientists like we're doing now in Zoom?
Yeah, our boss, Jeff, goes into a little bit more on this on the panel, that we had a good relationship with the Science and Entertainment Exchange when we were writing the show. So we would be able to send science that was a really good organization for us to utilize their resources and reach out to scientists with specific questions. So.
And sometimes informally, if we know someone who's in a certain field, sometimes like someone who's, say, a doctor can tell us a story and we're like, oh, that's cool, noted, and then we use that down the line someday. Or sometimes we're trying to break a story and we'll talk to someone like Sharla's sister who's a doctor and say, so if someone got shot and you had to be pulling the bullet out on a plane, what would you need, you know? So,
yeah, we do our best to kind of ground it in science and to talk to scientists when we can.
I think that's great, and I'm so glad that the writers do that level of, you know, research and representation. You know, I think it's really important, especially in the world we're living in here today, all having to do this virtually. You know, if more people trusted science and understood the representation, you know, we would get how amazing it is that we're talking about a vaccine within a year, you know, here. And okay, sure, Fitzsimmons maybe could have done it in 4 days, but, you know, hey, we at least know that, you know, scientists are really kicking ass right now. And I think it's great to have a show that was amazingly entertaining to watch, but also gave credit to those scientists.
Thank you so much. I'm Chris Morrow, Comic-Con at Home. It's really nice to have a show that, you know, that has real science in it. Thank you so much. We miss you, and we'll see you next year at Comic-Con.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chris.
San Diego!